What's going on, NBA fanatics? This is your friendly neighborhood Memphis Grizzly homer, Memphis X, and I talk hoops. The 2025 NBA draft was last night, and the Memphis Grizzlies made a splash. Let's talk about it.
Cedric, you went from Division III Willamette in 2021 to Eastern Washington, to Washington State, to a Duke commitment to this night. What is your story a story of?
It's a story of determination.
The 2025 NBA draft was last night, and the Memphis Grizzlies started the night off with the 16th pick in the draft. They ended up trading up in the draft when it was my suspicion that they might trade down in the draft to try to clear some calorie to sign Jaren Jackson. Now, what they did do is they traded the 16th pick, the 2028 Orlando Magic pick that they got in the Desmond Bane trade, and a couple second-round picks for the rights to the 11th pick in the 2025 draft. And with that pick, the Portland Trail Blazers selected Cedric Coward from Washington State for the Memphis Grizzlies. And if Washington State sounds familiar, that is, of course, where rookie Jalen Williams went to college prior to becoming a Memphis Grizzlies. So this is something that's very, very unique. And now when I started trying to look at guys that I wouldn't mind drafting or wouldn't mind the Grizzlies drafting, I just, I had been looking at the draft earlier, but when we traded our pick at the deadline, I kind of was like, we're not going to have a draft. So I was frustrated with the season. So I kind of really didn't pay attention to the college basketball season much, because college basketball is so hard to watch. And the only reason I ever watch it is to scout, players. So I really didn't get a chance to watch a lot of full games like I normally do. But once we got a pick in the first round, I decided to go back and look. And I just do my normal thing is I go back to look at the players that I know I like. And one of the guys that I like coming into the draft or into this draft cycle was Colin Murray Bowles. I wasn't extremely high on him because he couldn't shoot. But I loved him because he plays like a carbon copy of Draymond Green. And I really liked him, and I thought he could really help the Grizzlies. I thought he'd be a good fit next to Jaren Jackson. But of course, the Toronto Raptors took him, I think at 9. And that left one other player that I really wanted the Grizzlies to get, and that was Cedric Coward. And they were like 1A, 1B on the players that I wanted, because I wanted somebody who had a pro skill set, a guy that I could look at and say, this works in the NBA. And for all the hype the 2025 NBA draft got going, coming into this season, it's really not that strong of a draft. I like Cooper Flagg, of course. I like Dylan Harper. I like Ace Bailey to an extent. I like Jeremiah Fears. But I really, really like Colin Murray Bowles and Cedric Coward. And the thing about Cedric Coward, I really didn't get into him until the Grizzlies got the pick. But when I look back at him, when I look back at his season, the thing that stood out to me the most was his shooting. Now, if you guys remember the thing that it was kind of like a Twitter or a tweet that was posted around about all the wings that have been drafted lately with a 7'2" plus wingspan in the first round and how successful they've been in the NBA. But the one thing about that stat is I don't think any of those guys could shoot coming into the NBA. And it's something about those long arms that makes it difficult to shoot, especially since those guys usually have a physical advantage of people at lower levels because they're so long and they're big. So he's like 6'6.5" in shoes, 7'2.5" wingspan or something like that. He shoots 39 to 40% from three. And the thing about it, he shot that well at every level. And the thing about it, it's another guy the Grizzlies drafted that did that, and that was Desmond Bane. And one of the key things that I look for when I'm looking at the stats for a guy that's going into the draft is what did they shoot their freshman year? Because a good shooter, a guy who's really a good shooter, and I mean guys like Reed Shepard, Steph Curry, I mean shooters, they shoot well their freshman year from three. Now, there's some guys who develop into good shooters, and those guys usually, those are guys I don't really kind of trust as being an elite shooter. But this guy was a good shooter. Not only that, he was a good finisher. I mean, his 2-point field goal percentage. If you the David Thorpe article that I'm going to link in the description of this video is going to show you. He showed it. He said this guy finished 72% of his 2-point baskets. And for reference, he compared him to Zach Edey, who finished 64% of his 2-point basket. And you know Zach Edey was mainly dunking, baby hooks, all that kind of stuff. Zach Edey, 2-time player of the year, one of the best interior players in college basketball history, and a Memphis Grizzlies. But Coward, it is so rare for a wing to finish this well that it was just ridiculous. So, of course, before the draft, a lot of Grizzly fans wanted this guy because it is so unlike any guy that we really draft. We rarely get a guy that has the requisite size, as in height, the plus wingspan, like a 7+ wingspan, and a guy who can shoot already coming into the league. We don't draft wings like that. And that was my big problem with the Zaire Williams pick. I remember that draft with Zaire Williams, and I remember going back and looking at his stats. And I mean, I went back to college, to Team USA, to high school, every EYBL, every level that I saw Zaire Williams playing at, he shot like crap. And I just I said, well, this guy can't shoot. And it turned out when he came to the league, he could not shoot. Now, you couldn't go back and do the same with Cedric Howard. And I was wondering, because I was like, man, I usually like to go back and look at some of their high school highlights or, go back and look at their EYBL stats. And I was like, man, this guy ain't got nothing out there. And then it hit me. He was in high school during COVID. Yeah. He graduated, I think, in 21. So his high school, his senior year was during COVID. And that kind of explains his college basketball history. Started at Division III, then went up to Eastern Washington, and then to Washington State. He went to college, I think, went to high school in Fresno, California. And I was really going back, and this was like before we even drafted him. I wanted to see how he played in high school because, that tells you a lot about people. And it's not just how they played in high school. I like to see what opposing fans said about them. And there's one player that just let me know that he was going to be great in the pros, and that was Trae Young, because you would go back to his 10th grade, 11th grade highlight videos, and you would see the opposing fans talking about how great he was. So that's what I like to do. I like to see what they did in the EYBL. I like to see what they did in high school, what they did in college, especially their freshman season, and So none of that's available with him since he was at Division III for his freshman season. And you get there and you look and you realize, okay, he was from the high school era of COVID, so there's not much on him, and that's probably how he slipped through the cracks and was able to be such a sleeper. Now he was headed to Duke for his senior year. He was going to, I think they said Duke had him a NIL deal for $3 million. So, we're gonna see. I'm excited about this pick. Of course, I'm hoping that he can play summer league. If you don't know, his last year in college, he only played 6 games because he had a shoulder injury, some kind of rotator cuff injury. And he hasn't played contact basketball at all since then. So he's been going 1-on-0. I think he was going against coaches at the Grizzlies workout. So we're going to see exactly where he is as far as health-wise and if he'll be able to play summer league. Now, I see a lot of people excited about the Cedric Coward pick and a lot of people talking about they gave up too many assets. They gave a first-round pick, an extra first-round pick, the 2028 Orlando pick, unprotected, scary. As far as I know, it's unprotected, and 2 second-rounders. Is that a high price to pay? Probably. But if we can go back to the Zaire Williams lesson, you remember Zach Kleiman was trying to trade up in that draft, and the supposed target was Franz Wagner. Now, Zaire Williams, Franz Wagner. If you had the chance to move up in that draft to, instead of drafting Zaire Williams, you drafted Franz Wagner, what wouldn't you give up? You know what I'm saying? That's how I am. The issue is not what they gave up. The only issue is, did they get the right player? If Cedric Coward pops, and I want you to read this David Thorpe article that I'm going to link in the description, where he says he would have taken him second behind Cooper Flagg. He was comparing him, making some crazy comparisons to Kobe and Jordan. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. I might put some excerpts from the article up so you can read them, just in case you don't have time. But yeah, that is all that matters. How does the pick turn out? Trust me, if Cedric Coward is an all-star 3 to 4 years from now, you're not going to give a damn that they gave up a first and 2 seconds to get him. You're not going to care at all. And if he's a bust 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, you wouldn't give a damn if they gave up only 2 seconds for him. You're still going to be mad. It's not going to matter. So let me know what you thought about the draft pick. Did you like it? Is that who you wanted the Grizzlies to take? Do you think they paid too much for this move to move up 5 spots in the draft? Because, the Pelicans paid even bigger price to move 10 spots up in the draft, but that's a story for another day. But let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.